Hello everyone, and welcome to my YNR Official 24 channel. Matt was reported missing, a fact that incontinently set off alarm bells for the people who watched about him, but no bone. Suspected that Sienna, the generally composed and clever figure in the drama, had orchestrated a daring deliverance that nothing could have prognosticated because the world had assumed she was caught up in some unrighteous plot or that she herself might be in peril. Yet in true Sienna fashion, she had taken matters into her own hands, defying prospects, risking her safety, and using every ounce of cunning to save Matt from a situation that had grown decreasingly dangerous, with pressure raising as Genoa City's residers tried to erect together suggestions, searching high and low, questioning everyone from the most secure abettors to the people with the most suspicious motives, and as the disquisition unfolded, the verity remained fugitive, an involved web of dishonesty and misdirection that left indeed the sharpest minds scratching their heads. But the turning point came when a sharp-eyed bystander noticed subtle signs. A shadowy figure glinted near the abandoned storehouse quarter, faint sounds echoing from beneath the floorboards in a structure long study empty, the faint scent of someone who had been hiding down, and suddenly, the pieces began to fit together in a chillingly perfect mystification, revealing that Sienna hadn't only saved Matt, but had also cleverly concealed their position in the basement of a place nothing would suppose to hunt. A retired retreat that combined secretiveness with availability, and as the followership learned further about her enterprising sweats, the admiration for Sienna's frippery was mixed with pressure, because the basement was no ordinary caching spot. It was filled with pitfalls, from structural sins to the ever-present trouble of discovery by those who had eyes far and wide. And while Sienna kept her cool, Matt's gratefulness was apparent, a mixture of relief, admiration, and the quiet consummation that his safety owed everything to someone willing to go to extreme lengths. And this disclosure transferred shockwaves through Genoa City, kindling a flurry of questions. How had Sienna managed to vanish without leaving a trace? Who, if anyone, suspected that she was intimately orchestrating a deliverance charge right under everyone's tips? And most importantly, what would be when the retired basement, the sanctuary of secrets, ultimately came given to others, potentially bringing peril to the very people Sienna had risked everything to cover? And as enterprise ran rampant, observers were treated to a thrilling chain of events as alliances were tested, commitment questioned, and feelings ran grandly, with every character replying in ways that stressed their fears, solicitations, and vulnerabilities. And in the midst of all this, Sienna remained the calm, calculating force, the linchpin of the drama, whose imagination and courage handed a stark discrepancy to the chaos swirling around her. And as the layers of the story held back, it came clear that her exposure wasn't an act of poltroonery, but of strategic brilliance, a move that underlined her determination to cover the bones. She watched about, to manipulate circumstances in ways that would outwit adversaries, and to maintain control over a situation that had entwined out of the ordinary, with observers holding their breath as every new twist revealed further about the dangerous network of pitfalls that had needed her uncommunicative conduct. From adversaries lurking in unanticipated corners to abettors whose motives weren't as pure as they appeared, and as the pressure mounted, Matt's recovery and the safe haven handed by Sienna's retired basement offered a rare hint of stopgap in an else turbulent plot, showing that indeed amidst treason, deception, and riddle, courage, fidelity, and quick thinking could make all the difference. And as Genoa City's residers erected together the verity, the narrative unfolded like a tightly wound suspensor, with Sienna at its center, the brilliant songwriter of events whose exposure had originally sounded portentous, but eventually revealed a heroism that left everyone stupefied, thankful, and anxiously awaiting the coming chapter in a saga where every secret had consequences, every action had ripple goods, and every hidden corner of the megacity could harbor both peril and deliverance, making the story of Sienna's exposure, her enterprising deliverance of Matt, and the tense, suspension-filled concealment in the basement a defining moment in YNR history, a tale of riddle, courage, and the kind of dramatic twists that keep cult fused to their defenses, hearts pounding, minds contending, and feelings on edge. wondering not just what would be next, but who could be trusted, who had the courage to act when it signified most, and how far someone like Sienna would go to cover those she loved. Indeed, if it meant fading into the murk, outslicking everyone, and getting a silent idol whose presence was only felt when the consequences of her conduct came insolvable to ignore, creating a heritage of suspension and conspiracy that would resonate through the corridors of Genoa City for weeks, months, and maybe ever, as her mysterious exposure, the secret deliverance of Matt, and the retired basement came the stuff of YNR legend, a story that combined fear, stopgap, admiration, and pressure in a way only cleaner pieces drama could, leaving observers both satisfied and hopeless for further. Because in a world where secrets are currency and frippery frequently comes disguised as ordinary action, Sienna's trip demonstrated that indeed the quietest idol could change everything, and as the curtain fell on this chapter, the megacity and its people were left meaning the fragility of safety, the power of courage, and the extraordinary lengths someone could go to in the name of fidelity, love, and survival. And in that moment, Sienna's exposure was no longer just a riddle, it was a testament to her cunning, resoluteness, and the imperturbable bond she participated with those she pledged to cover. A story that would echo through Genoa City, inspiring admiration, enterprise, and admiration, leaving everyone to wonder what other secrets lay hidden, staying for the right person to uncover them, and whether the coming twist in Sienna's saga would bring peril, triumph, or a shocking disclosure that would formally again turn the megacity upside down, because in the world of YNR, nothing is ever simple, nothing is ever predictable, and every exposure, every deliverance, every retired basement holds the implicit to rewrite fates, forge alliances, and enkindle drama on a scale that keeps suckers charmed, emotionally invested, and endlessly talking about the inconceivable adaptability, intelligence, and daring of Sienna, whose mysterious exposure proved formerly and for all that she was a force to be reckoned with, a heroine in the murk, a protection of the vulnerable, and a central figure in a plot that would be flashed back as one of the most thrilling, suspenseful, and heart-stopping moments in YNR history, a narrative that seamlessly wove pressure, riddle, emotion, and surprise into a single, indelible tale that kept everyone on edge from beginning to end. Sienna had fallen victim to one of the numerous dangerous people lurking in the murk of the megacity. The shocking verity of her selfless charge to deliver Matt began to sluggishly surface through subtle suggestions that only the keenest spectators could erect together, from the faint trace of her incense on an infrequently used staircase to the careful arrangement of objects that suggested at someone living in secretiveness. And as the investigators, musketeers, and family members trolled the megacity for answers, their sweats were complicated by clashing testaments, the deliberate misdirection of those who either wanted to cover Sienna or had motives of their own, and the ever-present turnabout of peril that suggested any step in the wrong direction could lead to disaster. Yet amid all the chaos, Sienna's brilliance shone through in ways that left both her abettes and adversaries astounded. For the basement that had come her temporary retreat was a phenomenon of careful planning, hidden behind a non-committal wall in a putatively abandoned structure, with secret entrances, cleverly disguised traps, and a network of inventories that allowed her and Matt to remain safe, nourished, and prepared for whatever challenges might come, and every moment spent in that retired enclave tested their adaptability as they navigated the fear of being discovered, the physical and emotional strain of confinement, and the implied pressure that comes from close diggings and high stakes. But despite the pressure, Sienna's unvarying resoluteness inspired Matt, and he snappily realized that her courage and intelligence had kept them alive, transubstantiating fear into determination, query into strategy, and despair into stopgap. And as words sluggishly blurted that Sienna was the mastermind of the daring deliverance, a ripple of admiration swept through Genoa City, challenging preliminarily held hypotheticals about her character and revealing confines of her personality that many had truly appreciated ahead. And while this admiration brought a sense of relief, it also raised new questions, for if Sienna could orchestrate such a bold initiative and vanish without a trace, also what differently was she able of, and who might be coming to profit from, or be hovered by her extraordinary capacities. And as investigators began following decreasingly complex leads, some stumbled upon hints of Sienna's trail, a retired. Note then, a displaced object there, but every implicit advance was shrouded in nebulosity, keeping everyone guessing, and meanwhile, the cerebral risk of the event counted heavily on musketeers and loved bones. Particularly those closest to Matt, who oscillated between relief at his safety and anxiety over Sienna's continued secretiveness, while rumors and half-trueness circulated through the megacity like campfire, kindling heated debates, rumored enterprises, and frantic phone calls, all contributing to an atmosphere charged with pressure and suspension. And as the days wore on, indeed the most stoic characters were forced to defy their passions, their prejudices, and their hypotheticals about what it meant to cover someone and to take pitfalls, with each commerce revealing retired angles of connections, commitment, and particular courage. And in parallel, Sienna and Matt developed an implied meter in the basement, a delicate balance of alert care and unyielding trust, participating moments of quiet reflection that varied sprucely with the violent drama outdoors, moments in which they could laugh still, map precisely, and prepare mentally for eventual exposure, knowing sharp well that the longer they stayed retired, the lesser the peril if they were discovered. Yet indeed, as they stressed intrusion, Sienna's scrupulous planning sounded nearly visionary, anticipating possible scripts, booby traps, and unpleasant callers, all while maintaining an creepy calm that inspired admiration in Matt. And as Genoa City's community replied in real time, some with fear, some with righteous outrage, and others with opportunistic designing, the story of Sienna's exposure grew in layers, getting a multifaceted narrative that intertwined heroism, suspension, morality, and particular metamorphosis. And as further characters came entangled in the unfolding drama, from Victor and Nikki to Abby, Phyllis, and Jack, each brought their own motives, fears, and schemes into play, creating an unpredictable blend of battle, alliance, and conspiracy, with everyone trying to impact the outgrowth, whether to ensure safety, claim credit, or gain influence. And amid this whirlpool, Sienna remained the quiet architect, moving strategically, observing without being observed, and icing that Matt's safety was no way compromised. Indeed, if it meant hiding for longer than anyone allowed possible, and the pressure reached nearly unsupportable situations as near misses and narrow escapes reminded them both that discovery was only a twinkle down, that one mistake could unravel the delicate web Sienna had woven, and that the outside world remained unconscious to the heroism being just beneath their bases. And yet indeed under pressure, she displayed remarkable calm, resourcefulness, and compassion, balancing practicality with empathy, peril with mortal connection, all of which amplified her part not just as a deliverer, but as a central force of stability in a world else governed by chaos. And as the days stretched into nights and the nights into suspension-laden hours, Genoa City's residers grappled with the counteraccusations of Sienna's conduct, realizing that the exposure they had stressed as a tragedy was, in fact, a calculated, valorous charge that saved a life, challenged hypotheticals, and readdressed the boundaries of fidelity, fellowship, and heroism. And as whispers spread and social dynamics shifted, alliances formed and broke, secrets were guarded and revealed, and the ripple effect of Sienna's daring choices came ever more apparent, impacting not only the immediate circle of those involved but also shaping comprehensions, opinions, and emotional countries across the megacity. And through it all, the basement, formerly a simple caching place, converted into a symbol of imagination, courage, and quiet rebellion, representing the crossroad of peril and stopgap, fear and adaptability, and secretiveness and disclosure. And as the suspension continued to make, observers were left on the edge of their seats, hearts contending, minds buzzing with enterprise, and feelings tangled in the complex web of love, fear, and admiration that defined Sienna's extraordinary trip. And in this high-stakes narrative, every regard, every sound, every small action carried weight, revealing that indeed in the darkest corners, courage could illuminate paths to deliverance, that quick thinking could outthink peril, and that one person's determination could cock the scales in ways that converted lives, reshaped connections, and charmed an entire megacity. With the unfolding story of Sienna's exposure, the daring deliverance of Matt, and the tense suspension filled life in the retired basement, serving as a testament to the power of frippery, intelligence, and unwavering fidelity. Leaving Colt concentrated, emotionally invested, and anxiously anticipating what shocking twist would come next, because in Genoa City, nothing is ever simple, nothing is ever predictable, and every secret, every choice, and every hidden corner can become the setting for dramatic, life-changing exposures that keep hearts pounding, minds contending, and observers talking long after the curtain falls. And just when it sounded that the pressure could escalate any further, the story of Sienna and Matt in the retired basement took yet another dramatic turn, for as Genoa City continued its frantic quests, with neighbors gaping nervously out windows, musketeers calling each other in despair, and investigators following leads that sounded promising, yet always turned cold, there came subtle hints that someone differently might know further than they were letting on, moving just out of sight. Phone calls that ended suddenly, cryptic dispatches that teased knowledge of Sienna's position, all of which boosted the formerly unsupportable suspension. And while the megacity suspected hectically about who could be responsible for Matt's dilemma and Sienna's mysterious exposure, Sienna herself remained a master of countenance, strictly calculating each threat, buttressing the retired space in the basement, allowing inventories, and indeed creating a series of contingency plans for every conceivable script. And as the hours stretched into days, she set up herself balancing not only physical survival but also the emotional risk of keeping Matt calm, encouraging him to stay focused and reminding him that their bond, tested under extraordinary circumstances, was their strongest tool. And in those quiet moments between tense pushes and strategic planning, the depth of their trust and reliance on one another came profoundly clear, with Matt quietly marveling at Sienna's brilliance, frippery, and unwavering fidelity, realizing that her exposure had no way been about fear or avoidance, but about courage, imagination, and the fierce protection of someone she watched about deeply. While outdoors, the ripple goods of her conduct resounded across the megacity, altering comprehensions of characters who had undervalued her, creating new alliances, and stirring old battles. And as rumors flew, secrets were rumored in the corridors of Newman Enterprises, in the plush services of Jabot Cosmetics, and indeed within the quiet sanctuaries of the Abbot Manse, with each disclosure transferring shockwaves through families, gemütlichkeit, and romantic snares. And as Victor, Nikki, Phyllis, Abby, and Jack replied to the decreasingly complex situation, their plans, schemes, and feelings collided in a web of conspiracy, covetousness, and concern, each trying to anticipate Sienna's coming move, cover favored bones, or exploit the query for particular gain. And while numerous saw her exposure as implicit trouble or occasion, only a many understood the true magnitude of her charge, the pitfalls she had taken, and the extraordinary courage that kept her and Matt hidden, alive, and safe. And as the pressure reached fever pitch, unanticipated moments of suspension, similar as faint noises above the basement, the creak of a floorboard, or the unforeseen exposure of a light source, reminded them both that discovery was no way far, that peril lurked in the most ordinary corners, and that alert, intelligence, and timing were their only abetas. And yet indeed in these precarious circumstances, Sienna's strategic brilliance shone brightly, from creating clever distractions to clapping communication styles, to keeping Matt's morale grandly through small acts of humor, empathy, and consolation, each gesture a testament to her adaptability and resourcefulness. And as the megacity sluggishly began to erect together fractions of the verity, with eyes widening in shock and hearts contending at the consummation of what Sienna had fulfilled, the story came not only a thrilling tale of survival and courage, but also a profound contemplation on fidelity, imagination, and the lengths one would go to cover someone they loved. And in the midst of all the fear, enterprise, and drama, the basement itself came more than a caching place. It was a gauntlet of courage, a stage for heroism and a sanctuary of calculated threat, filled with pressure, emotion, and the quiet triumphs of clever strategy, as Sienna and Matt navigated every handicap with determination, wit, and imperturbable trust, proving that indeed in the darkest of circumstances, stopgap, intelligence, and